everyone, this is Curb, and I bring you another standard match. Today we have myself once again on the left playing Leuhan, and on the right we are going to be going up against Luard. So let's go ahead and see how Leuhan does in this meta of Stride deck sets. So we do have Luard going first, definitely not where they want to be. I think I did win the die roll. And of course, in this meta, kind of, if you do win the die roll, you do just have to blind second a lot of the times. We see the Abyssal Owl being used here to pull out the Dragheart Luard straight from the deck. Going to be riding up to grade 1 and then calling out the little witch girl there, Benediction Mage. She is a 13k booster for any Leuhan or Maris card, so putting her behind the Vanguard puts me at a very strong Vanguard swing every single turn. And since Luard doesn't directly have any forms of removal, that is where she is going to stay for the rest of the game. So now we do have Luard just riding up into the grade 2. Not a whole lot that they can actually do here, but they do have access to double Morfessa here, which is kind of scary, especially since we were able to achieve that Ritual 3 by discarding and Soul Blasting. Going to make these Morfessas each into 15k attackers. Going to be hitting a defensive on the first one. Pretty lucky. Unfortunately, I decided to pass the Vanguard and do hit into a critical trigger, pushing me all the way to 3. So just gonna be riding up into that grade 2. Of course, that second Morfessa attack was canceled out thanks to that defensive trigger, but using the grade 1 skill here to Soul Blasting the one card, checking the top 5, and then I'm gonna be adding what's her face, the Angel, the one that is not Painkiller Angel. Definitely she puts in a lot of work in this deck, kind of just being as another grade 1 that you can call down an early rush with, but for the most part she kind of does her job. She's supposed to countercharge, which you do sometimes need in Leuhan, but honestly not all the time. We see Maris being called down. Unfortunately, it is not yet a 15k attacker. It does rely on you being on grade 3, so you can actually have a 15 at a grade 2 if you go first. But obviously that's not the case, so we're just going to swing the Maris in at the Vanguard. Going to be blocked with that grade 1 10k shield. Going to be swinging the Vanguard for 23. Going to be way too big to block. Going to go ahead and do our drive check, hitting into a heal trigger, so something that is very nice. They're just going to be healing out that Benediction Mage because Leuhan does actually need quite a few normal units in the drop zone. So since you do recycle them with the order card, which unfortunately I was not able to grab there, so as many normal units as you can put in the drop zone, the better time you're going to have as a Leuhan player. Anyways, riding up into Luard using the Leafall skill to just Soul Blast one and then call it out. So keeping these Morfessas around, they are still pretty good numbers. Going to be 2 to passing the Vanguard. We see a Maple and a critical trigger here, giving the effect to that Morfessa who's going to be swinging in for 25. So I kind of have to debate, do I want to be at 4 here? And I think honestly the answer really is no. So I am going to have to commit a 20k guard there. It can be that Angel Leg off drive jack as well as a trigger, keeping myself at pretty low damage. Now the downside to doing that is it does kind of, leave Luard and heal range, which is probably the reason why they attacked into the Maris, kind of just forcing me to stay in that heal range. Anyways, riding into the grade 3, we do get 1 counterblast less for our Vanguard thanks to the skill of the grade 2, using the skill of Leuhan to call out the Maris straight from the deck for a soul. Something that you do have to do when playing Leuhan is you have to consider a lot of soul management, just because that is a resource that is not very plentiful until you go into your turn 4 and you re-ride and get a whole bunch of soul. So anyways, going to be swinging the Maris at 15. You did see me call it Tayfault here. I did make a little bit of miscalculations, as we'll see later, but of course, unfortunately, I have not been able to actually see a order. I think I actually drew into 2 Tayfaults and no order, so kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, I do kind of just need an attacker right now, so just calling it, getting nothing off the drive checks. We see a PG there using the skill of the Leuhan, sucking up the Maris into the soul. Of course, not counter blasting for it because of the grade 2, riding into that Leuhan Maris straight from the deck. Thanks to the fact that we have the grade 3 Leuhan in this soul, it does get an extra 10k, and it can of course perform drive checks because it is on the Vanguard circle. That's going to be eating out another PG from Luard, the Elementario there. Gonna get nothing off the drive check. It's gonna be swinging for just 10 because you do actually need to have 4 more units in order for Tayfault to get an extra 10k when it attacks a grade 3 unit. So we are just gonna be swinging in at that Morfessa, just get it out of the way, prevent, I guess, a little bit of multi-attack, but that multi-attack isn't gonna be coming until not even this turn, but the turn after that, because Morfessa is a very slow card. It does require you to have 2 face-up cards in the G zone. So not a threat yet, but you know, might as well get rid of it now while we have a chance. We do see the Maple coming on out, and then using, of course, the Drag Heart Stride skill to retire the Maple and then call out 2 more grade 1 cards, calling out a suite of double Painkiller Angels there. Oh, maybe deciding to double back on that Painkiller. Oh, just calling it behind the Morfessa. A very strong column there. That's going to be a... Oh, looks like we're putting it back. Almost had a Tim situation there. But anyways, that would have been a nice column. A 28k column. Just because of the crest and Morfessa's 15k base. And looks like we're actually just going to swing straight on with the Drag Driver. Must really not have a lot of good cards in hand if we're just going to be swinging like that. Calling out the Intercept there. Could also be an indication that we are kind of low on shield. Maybe we don't have any PGs left. Maybe we just need to amass as much shield as possible. But things are looking pretty decent for me at this instant. We do see a draw trigger being played there, possibly giving us access to more options, more shield. We don't really see a lot of high shield value there, as we see the Painkiller as well. Drawing another card. Hopefully we can draw into a bit more shield that we are probably looking for there. We are still in heal range, but we didn't actually get a heal trigger, and looks like we are going to be targeting some of the rear guards with this first swing being a 21. I am also kind of low on good attackers, so I am going to opt to guard this first attack. And then this Morfessa is going to be pretty big, so honestly, no matter where it goes, I probably can't really afford to guard it. If they do decide to swing at my Vanguard, that does CB, or the rear guard, they decide to CB deny me just a little bit here. So that does complicate things a little bit, but I don't think I actually have anything that requires CB at this instant, as I am going to be starting off with a Persona ride, and I do kind of have to assemble the rank. So the one thing with Leuhan is you do get a free rear guard, so you do have a nice, not column, but you at least have access to a guaranteed attacker here, as we do see myself calling out the Maris from the deck there. And then all you really do have to do is commit another rear guard to the other column, which is something you do kind of have to do since you are rewriting a Vanguard. In order to not waste your triggers, you either have to, one, you have to have another rearguard column, because the Maris is going to be... yeah, why are we trying to take some cards? We're in the middle of a match here. As we call the grade 1 actually to the other column, because we need something to stack triggers on. I just remembered her name. Her name is Enuculate Angel, as we are going to be swinging for a pretty decent number here. You see myself considering putting the Maris back, because I do only have 1 left in deck after this, but I do kind of not want to risk drive checking the Leuhan Maris, because if you do drive check it here, then you don't actually have anything to rewrite into. We see OT being thrown up here to make it a OT to pass. We do see a critical trigger being played there, giving the effects to that Enuculate, using the skill of Force Leuhan, sucking up the Maris there and riding into the Leuhan Maris, allowing me to, you know, get another Vanguard swing. And since we did actually Persona ride here, Maris is going to be giving my Vanguard an extra drive check. So we got 33 with triple drive here. So looks like we don't actually have a PG. Almost forgetting to counterblast there for the Leuhan's skill, because we did actually need to, you know, you do need to counterblast for Leuhan's skill. I tend to forget that a lot, because, you know, the first time is always free. So you sometimes, and a lot of times you just think, oh, the cost is just suck up a Maris. But you do have to remember that it does actually cost a CB. So it looks like we're guarding for that 33. I believe that was a 10k intercept. 43, 48. That's going to be a 2 to pass. And I'm going to be flipping over an over trigger here. So now I'm actually going to make a really big misplay here. And I think this misplay is honestly very game determinative. You do see myself putting all the effects on the Vanguard to break through. What was going through my mind is that, oh, this is going to be a huge tempo swing. I broke through all his shield, and, you know, that could just lead me to victory on this turn, or next turn, or even this turn. But what I failed to realize is this Enucleate is already actually swinging for 2 damage. So if I just, you know, ignored that guard, stacked everything on the Enucleate, I could have swung with 100 million and 3 damage. That would have left Luard in a situation where it's PG or die. And honestly, I really should have had the read that my opponent didn't have the PG, considering how much they were hard guarding. They threw down the OT, and then they hard guarded a 2 to pass. So I really should have had the read that, oh, they don't have a PG anymore. If I just stack everything on the Nucleate, I can win here. And even if they do PG, I'm leaving them with 1 open CB, meaning that they have to choose between going into the Drag Driver using its skill or using the Stride skill. But because of this really game determinative misplay, we do see my opponent was at 3. Even though that's 2 damage, it's not going to be enough to kill. So the game is going to be continuing on. And I am going to have to try and do my best to finish things during the next turn. All that being said, I'm technically still not in a terrible situation. I am at 2 damage. Sure, this is second stride. Things are going to start getting out of hand. And maybe this might be the last turn that I'm actually able to guard a bunch of attacks. Because if I want to conserve hand and have a good follow-up next turn, I do need to make sure that I, you know, keep as many cards as possible in my hand. And I need to be able to actually finish things out next turn, which hopefully, if we don't see a heal trigger, the very unfortunate thing is that Luard can actually technically heal down 3 times, and if they heal down at least once, my chances of actually, you know, closing things out are very, very low, because keeping them at 5 damage is probably my best shot for actually killing. We do see the grade 1 being called there, whiffing off of the skill, calling down another one, checking the top 2 once again. We do have a little bit of filtering there, but in my mind, you're probably putting like 2 PGs or a trigger in a PG, or 2 triggers on the bottom of the deck. So technically it doesn't matter, because, you know, Drag Driver does, you know, shuffle the deck, so whatever. As we do see this 6k base swinging in at the Vanguard for a 16. Unfortunately, I don't really have a good 5k shield that I want to commit to that, so I am gonna just overguard it and swinging the Drag Driver there, retiring, calling over, probably calling a Morfessa just because it's a strong attacker. This Vanguard already swinging for 51, which is just way too big. This is a PG or bust, and I decide to go ahead and opt for the PG. Going to be discarding a trigger there, because I do need to keep a lot of my attackers. You do see my board is very barren. We see a critical trigger being flipped here, which is not that terrible. I still have some damage that I can take. As long as we don't see like 2 more criticals, I should be fine. But this Morfessa is going to be swinging for very, very big. I believe they're like 40 and 50 at this point if we add the boost, because they are 15k base with their skill, plus a 15k to the front row and a 10k boost along with that trigger, making it up to 50. So I did have to decide which attack I opted to take. And another cause for concern because of my misplay, we get another attack that I have to deal with from this Morfessa. I decide that I want to stay at 4, so I'm just going to PG this Morfessa and probably just take this last swing, even though it's just 23. There could have been an argument of, like, you know, taking it and just go to 5. Well, it doesn't really matter that much. I'm not trying to, like, heal deny. I guess I heal denied myself, but yeah, it doesn't make that much of a difference, in all honesty. Most honesty, we do see the owl being procced here, binding the 2 copies in order to countercharge the 1, so they will have plays to do next turn, because their only way to countercharge at this point to have 2 CB would be to heal down and take a damage, or to get a 6 damage heal and heal down. So we see my first order of the game being that Angel Ladder, of course, almost completely useless, but it does do the purpose of, you know, making my Tayfault live so that I can actually assemble a bit more of a board, kind of deciding where I want to place the Painkiller. I could put it behind the Maris that I'm going to call out from the deck here, I believe the last copy. Unfortunately, one thing that I am missing that is going to be super important is that Persona Ride. So I am kind of just banking on the fact that my 4 attacks this turn, and my 4 drive checks are going to be enough to kind of just close things out. In all honesty, they might not be. Luard does have to guard every single one of these attacks, but they've got a 10k intercept, they got a 5k intercept, and they do have a sizable amount of cards in hand. You see me calling down the draw trigger because that's my best booster. I do kind of have the sense I have to close things out here or I am dead. So I am going to put everything I have into this single turn, using the skill to draw a card of the Benediction Angel. Only 2 cards in hand, so especially his 3rd stride, even if Drag Driver is not going to actually help me. Unfortunately, not getting any triggers off of my first swing here. We see myself once again forgetting to counterblast for Leuhan skill, but as you can see, I have 2 open CV, so it doesn't really matter in the end. I'm sure I'll remember it eventually. And I've just got 2 more drive checks. If these drive checks can help me finish off the game, then, you know, I've got this. We've only got 3 cards left in hand, and it looks like we're going to be guarding for 33, 40, 38. So that's going to be a 2 to pass, and unfortunately, I'm not going to see anything off of those drive checks. And this is my last bet, a 28k swing, unfortunately just being blocked by that PG. So that was honestly my last chance, even though I'm able to, you know, recover a bit more cards in my hand. With the amount of power coming from that crest, it's probably not going to be enough, especially when I am at 4 damage. So this is honestly probably my last, that was probably like my last chance to actually, you know, close out the game, and I just could not do it. Anyways, we do see the PG being recycled there, putting the card back into the ride deck. Striding into the drag driver. I guess we just don't have the owls to get back the Luard, so it doesn't really matter. Drag driver can definitely just do the job here with the amount of attacks and the amount of power that is just added to the front row. We have this Maple just swinging in for 40k. Gonna be just attempting to guard that. My only real bet here is to take the Vanguard, who is naturally going to be the biggest swing here, and then just, you know, hope for the best, because these other 2 swings are still very, very big. This Vanguard is 61, and I only have 3 cards in my hand, so my only bet to win here is hope we don't get a crit off the drive check and then like have double PG, but things just get worse as we see a heal trigger being thrown up there. So even if I did manage to actually survive this turn somehow, my chances were not looking very good, but this swing is going to be way too big. Not going to be able to take it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry about my little misplay there. I definitely could have taken that one thanks to my lucky sacking, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to do all these YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.